This time, we take a ride out to the Winchester. No, not that one. I mean, Winchester. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Now, the ride down to Winchester covers a couple hundred miles of fairly uninteresting dual carriageway and motorway. It also provided us with some bloody terrible weather, although it finally did improve. By the time we neared Winchester, the sun was out. What was the first thing we did when we got there? Obviously we did the park run. Unfortunately it rained heavily, so it was rather like running through a peat bog. Not that I worried Deb too much. Now Winchester is a cathedral city in Hampshire. It lies somewhere near the South Downs National Park and is cut through by the River Itchen. It was developed from the Roman town Venta Belgara, which developed through the Iron Age to later become the city of Winchester that we see today. The city boasts a university, but is probably best known for its cathedral. As it stands today, the cathedral was built between 1079 and 1532, with of course numerous changes along the way. It's said to be one of the largest churches of its kind in Northern Europe. The church contains the bones of a number of ancient English kings, including Canute, although the bones and relics were actually smashed up and damaged during the Reformation. It is said that the boxes actually contain the bones of up to 5 or 6 people and not merely the one person that is said to be contained within. So it's very hard to tell which box actually contains the bones of Canute, or any of the other kings for that matter, if indeed they do. They may contain bits of all of them in all the boxes. But today the cathedral is often visited by fans of literature, because it was here that an at the time unknown female author was buried. And strangely to us today, Jane Austen's grave contains no mention of her writing at all, her writing only becoming famous many years after she passed. If you take the guided tour, they'll lead you down to the catacombs. The great thing about the catacombs, or the interesting thing about the catacombs, is that they're very prone to flooding, and at various times of the year can contain up to 1 metre of water. And this tendency towards flooding has damaged the foundations of the cathedral at various points during its lifetime. And this means that a number of repairs have had to be accomplished to prevent the church from falling to the ground. A short walk from the cathedral is a National Trust water mill. This makes a lovely place to visit. It's quiet, well, sort of quiet if you can ignore the rushing water, but fairly peaceful, and it's a nice place to sit and get a drink. You can see the water wheel in action on most days, and watch flour actually being ground between the stones. The great thing is, you can actually buy some of the flour, which we did, and hopefully we're going to make some bread from it at some point. Well, if Deb pulls a finger out. I must admit, I do always find these water wheels fascinating. Those gears and the mechanism in operation is a very relaxing and soothing thing to watch, and it's great to see the ingenuity of the people who came before us. Well, while the Winchester City Mill isn't the largest National Trust site, it is a very nice way to spend an hour or two. On the other side of town are the remains of the fortification of Wolsey. This dates all the way back to the civil war between King Stephen and the Empress Matilda, and was the residence, for a time at least, of the Archbishop. Not surprisingly, during the Reformation, this fell into disrepair and disuse. And while there isn't much left standing today, It's still worth a visit, I think, and offers some really nice photo opportunities too. While ambling round, you do get the feel for just how impressive this site must once have been. So after a bit more shopping, it's time to amble around the city walls and a slap-up meal at Mrs. Miggins' pie shop. Well, maybe not that, but a very nice restaurant all the same. Day 2 saw us taking a ride out to what is for Deb the equivalent of Disney World. That's right, the Bombay Saphire Distillery. The distillery has actually only been around since about 1986, but the buildings are actually much older. It's on the site of the Laverstock Mill in Hampshire. This was originally a mill for paper production. I have to say that even for me, a non-drinker, this makes a surprisingly pleasant morning trip or afternoon trip. It's quite an aesthetically pleasing site, and there's some quite nice attractions there, including glass houses designed by Thomas Heatherwick.
What have you gone for then?
The new sunset one. The only one I haven't got.
When you first arrive there, they give you a drink. Obviously I had a non-alcoholic drink. Deb, of course, went for gin. They then watch your video while you have your drink, where they talk about gin production. There's a bit of an advert, obviously, for gin. Then it's out to have a look around the site, including some of the old workers' houses. And directly opposite those are those glass houses. In the glass houses, you'll find the botanicals, and these are the things that are used to give flavour to the gin. Or so I'm told. I don't drink gin, so I'm going to take their word for it. Deb assures me that this is in fact the case. There are 2 greenhouses. Each provides a slightly different environment than the last, and the heat is provided from the factory itself. Now the final part of the tour, except, of course, for the factory shop, you go into a sort of lab where you see the ingredients in their raw state. You can smell them and generally feel around with them, and it's very interesting the kind of smells that these herbs and spices produce. It's actually quite a pleasant experience. Some of them smell really nice, some kind of earthy and a bit like soil, but others are very pleasant, very chocolatey, all sorts of things.
Heaven. Strange. Oh, it does. It's like a perfume. It smells cassia bar.
Unfortunately, you don't see quite as much of the industrial side of the site as I would like to. Overall, I'd say this is a worthwhile experience. Deb is a gin fan, certainly got a kick out of visiting the place where her favourite tonic is made, so a well worthwhile trip, I think. After that, we hit the bar for a non-alcoholic drink, in my case. And of course, we did hit the shop. Obviously, Deb was going to get something. I got myself a pair of socks though, so I didn't go completely without. Then we hit the road again and headed off to the next part of our journey. Now, the last stop on our way home was the Wiltshire town of Avebury. This has a National Trust house. We do like a good National Trust house, don't we, Deb? But though the house in this case actually is something of a folly, it's a much younger property than it actually appears, and each room is done up in a series of styles from different periods of history. So it's actually not quite what it appears when you first get there. But it's not the house for which we actually travelled to Avebury to see, and it's not really what Avebury is famous for. Avebury is most famous for its stone circle. Avebury's neolithic henge and stone circle is on a truly massive scale. It encircles a very large portion of the small village itself, and really does put more famous circles such as Stonehenge, which is only a few miles away, really into shame. It is a much, much larger structure. It is truly impressive, and it's amazing really that it isn't more famous. because it does have a number of advantages compared to Stonehenge. For one thing, you can get up close to the circle and actually touch the stones yourself. It's somehow more interesting when things are tactile, isn't it? Also, walking around them takes several minutes, so you get a good exercise, and it's a really pleasant walk walking around the henge and the whole site itself. But for me, probably the most attractive thing about it is it's free. Stonehenge can be bloody expensive, to be perfectly frank, when you visit it. Avebury doesn't cost you a thing, other than car parking at the National Trust site, although of course if you remember, car parks are free. I'd recommend a visit to Avebury to anybody. It's more impressive than Stonehenge in a lot of ways. And it's a very interesting walk, and you really need to walk around the site to get a full sense of the scale of the thing, and just to marvel at how Neolithic people managed to get this whole thing together. Really an incredible place to visit. And if that's not enough for you, there's a famously haunted pub there too, because the Red Lion has a real reputation amongst hunters of the paranormal. And so ends another weekend away. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye for now.